Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing but football. The boys are back. Hope you guys have a lovely Friday. The sun is shining. Spring has arrived. And with that, Ben's hair is looking floppy as ever.
Thanks, man.
Henry, how are you doing, mate? How are you feeling that the sun is now touching your skin?
Yeah, well, it's a bit grey today. I love being
Give it
touched. I love being touched by the sun. So
You do? You enjoy a little holiday every now and again?
Listen, you know what? I'm desperate for a sunny holiday.
Yeah.
Because it's
Soon come, man.
that.
Soon come.
How are you, Ben?
I'm all right, thanks, mate. Yeah, it is lovely. We're back at white ball season in the Premier League, which is all. I love this time of the year.
Yeah,
and we go away
that.
from the winter ball back to the white ball, and it's like that's the spring has sprung.
We're not far, lads. Not far from the World Cup kicking off. That sounds mental to say, to be quite honest. But
Yeah, 100 days now.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. We're in March. So soon come. Guys, as you can see by the title of this video, it's an interesting one. It's that time of the year to look back at our pre-season predictions. Obviously, we can do this at the end of the season, but I thought it's nice to look at it now, just before the decider who has won the title happens, because everywhere else is really interesting as well. Gives us a few discussion points. So yeah, let's kick things off then with where we predicted the winners to be last season. I've got everything in front of me. I've also got some of our talking points as well that I can bring up.
Yeah.
And I'll go through it. Henry Hill, Manchester City.
Stand by it.
Ben Bowman, Liverpool.
Yeah, that's a shocker.
Zach Jellab, Man City. Henry had Liverpool second. I had Liverpool second. You had Liverpool. You had Liverpool first. You had Man City second.
Yeah.
All three of us, apart from Henry, had Arsenal third. Henry put Chelsea third.
Oh my God.
But let's first kick things off to talk about, I guess the most shocking one in that is Liverpool.
Yeah.
What I will add is we spoke about the defence. We spoke about how they are. I was worried a little bit about the fullbacks. I didn't know whether they would quite work in this Liverpool system. We mentioned around how Liverpool haven't improved maybe defensively. If anything, have got a little bit worse with some of the guys that are aging out and have left the club, being Trent Alexander-Arnold. We also felt as well that their backup centre-backs weren't of the standard. We mentioned, obviously, who's the young 18-year-old who's got the ACL injury, unfortunately. Leone. We mentioned, he could be really good. However, he's 18, a lot of pressure to put on him, and unfortunately had a really, really bad injury. We also spoke about how, and I think this is some props to us, Ekitike would really is going to be a really good player. He'll hit the ground running. Might be a few moments where he drops in form, but he could be really exciting. It's worth noting as well for you guys at home. At this point, Isak hadn't moved to Liverpool. You were sure that he was going to. I was thinking he wasn't going to.
Yeah.
And so, Alexander Isak hadn't moved. You also mentioned, Ben, Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah might have a year where they drop off, and that could impact a lot of things.
At least we got something right.
So that was mainly our Liverpool stuff. We were like, I'll be honest, we were keen to mention that. Look, this is Slot's team now, and he's added a lot of kind of cogs to the system, to that starting 11, and that might not be very helpful for them. So I feel like we were looking at it and giving maybe some of the right things. However, didn't expect the fall off to be quite as much as it's ended up being.
No.
For someone that predicted them to win the league, Ben, what does that make you feel? How does that make you feel?
They did start strong, even though there were some performances where they were scraping over the line a little bit. I also thought, with the signings, I think we all probably thought they were going to go and sign Mark Gahey at that point. Because when did we do this? The start of August, end of July? When at that point it was
just before the first game of the Premier League season.
Okay, yeah.
And you're right, we do mention, they need to go and do that. They need to go and sign Gahey.
And I think if you look at the transformative effect that Gahey has had on that City backline coming in January, I think if they had got Gahey at the start of the season, they would be in a much more stronger position than they are now, because obviously Konate had a big drop-off. I think Van Dijk's kind of gone through ups and downs, but I think his level hasn't certainly dropped off nowhere near as what we've seen with Salah. I said in a video last night, actually, off the back of the Wolves game, that what we're seeing with Salah is really reminding me of Heung-min Son in Son's last season for Spurs, where in the penultimate season, first season under Ange, you could sort of tell maybe, not legs are starting to go a bit, but he was only playing in the league and he's still got 27 goal contributions. It was like, right, still definitely at it. And then last season there was a big decline. And then obviously Salah had his best ever season with Liverpool in 24-25, like 30 goals, 20 assists, at least that, I think, for both of those numbers. And this year I'm watching him go around, sort of chase his first touch, not be able to take players on. Even the goal he scored last night, it's like,
I don't know. Do you not think? I thought there was the goal last night showed that he still got that bit.
A bit of burst, but it was a mistake. They turned over the ball.
No, you're right.
Also, Sarr should have saved it. But yeah, I mean, I just thought. I think part of my logic, which is maybe a bit naive, and I think we've spoken about this throughout the season in terms of like how we now go forward in terms of maybe judging new players, because obviously there was a hell of a lot of money spent across the league last summer with Liverpool taking up the bulk of that, kind of seeing a transfer window that we'd almost never seen before. It was like, well, when you look at the calibre of players that they're bringing in, almost how can it not work? And we've seen patches from all of them really in terms of quality. I think Kirkes has been better recently. Frimpong, I think when he's been used further up the pitch, has obviously been good and shown that he can play at this level. Wirtz as well, despite the goal contribution numbers not necessarily being there, has shown that he can definitely sit at this table. And Ekatike,
you did like Wirtz. We'll get on to
Wirtz
that
is quality. I know what I said for throwing Wirtz, but yeah, I mean, I didn't anticipate them dropping off like this. I thought they would go get stronger and go back to back. And
I think there's something to be said as well that I don't think we expected the league maybe to change as much as it has. You know, the league has really become such
in terms of the football. Yeah.
In terms of the football, you know, becoming a little bit turgid, becoming very reliant on set pieces in a lot of games as well. And maybe that's another point we can touch upon. But I think that also, like where we are now within set pieces, was nowhere near what we were last season. And look. It happens in football when teams prove that this is something that can make such a big difference to your season and to your team and how you set up. You know, we've mentioned a million times in this podcast about marginal gains and teams trying to get the most out of it. Maybe actually thinking about it, it's not that shocking that every team looked at, say, the likes of Arsenal last season.
I can't believe people are so upset. I can't believe people are so upset at this.
Why?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was going to be the route you take. Really, I can understand why people are upset. Do you not think games are boring now?
Yes.
I think Arsenal games are boring, but I don't think that's much different now.
Did you not watch the Everton Man United game last week with Everton?
I was currently, as that game was going on, I was watching Fulham batter Spurs actually, because that was going on exactly the same time.
No, it was the Monday night game last week. United beating 1-0, but Everton and again, I don't think, like you said, it's not. I mean, you said it was Arsenal, but it's not just an Arsenal thing. I think when you see it like across the league, and Arsenal will obviously cop all the heat for it because I think they were almost the founding fathers of this movement a couple of years ago, a little bit, despite still playing nice football at times. It's just an infection across all of the league. And someone put up a really good tweet from 2022, looking at the Man City-Liverpool game. And it's that was a proper game of football where they were both going at each other and the set pieces are so different. I think the referees have just
they've given up. That's my biggest issue.
Put a lid on it.
That's my biggest issue with the set pieces now, right? Is I put a tweet out that ended up having a lot of likes on it because I basically said in that image of where it's a corner for Chelsea, crossing it in, there's about 5 fouls happening in that same moment. Yeah. And you're right. That mention of the Liverpool Man City one, there's not a single grapple there. And if any of those grapples happen outside of that box in the game, it's a free kick.
Well, it's always going to be a free kick. Did you see Leeds last night? It's like I tweeted it, and I didn't want to keep bringing up the Kolo Muani thing a couple of weeks ago, but obviously we had it at the weekend.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're completely
How
right.
on earth can we live in a world where Leeds don't get a penalty for Luke O'Nien literally having strap round his neck from a free kick, but any slight push on the back is a foul.
For some reason,
but then it's not a foul the week after. It's like the inconsistency is one thing, but then the set pieces, like you said, the referees can't put a lid on it, and they're just it's the Wild West. It's like, well, I don't want to touch it because I don't want to be the one that makes a big decision. It's just scandalous.
Well, it's about consistency, right? And they're all kind of going with the consistency of in corners and set pieces. We're now playing rugby. We're now playing NFL.
Yeah, it's
that's not a situation where you can have.
I think if your team was scoring stuff. I mean, you score a lot from set pieces.
My point isn't that people aren't scoring a lot from set pieces. My point is the grappling, and this is more specifically about set pieces. The grappling that is going on, there are fouls. They're all fouls. 100%. Anywhere else on the pitch, they're fouls, right? If Arsenal were scoring set pieces and there was none of this fouling that's going on in these boxes, and this also goes for Arsenal as well. There are moments when they're having corners, and the opposition is all over them.
I think even last week, to be fair, and I think Rory made this point in a video the other day. Well, of course, he's going to stick up for Arsenal, but I get it. Arsenal's first goal, Enzo Fernandez is literally locked on like that. I think it's to Saliba, but
but then also in that same one, Gabriel, 2 hands on the back of foot to win that header, 2 hands on top of Reece James. You can't jump like that. It's a foul. You can never do that anywhere else on the pitch.
I feel like the referees have tied themselves up in knots so much throughout the time with VAR, with all this kind of jargon and all this spiel they put out at the start of the season. They always focus down on one specific thing. And I remember this year, I think it was this year, they said about it was all about pulling and it was all about sustained holding, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, okay, so if you tug someone's shirt they're going to look at that. But when someone's literally holding someone every single time, it's almost like because that wasn't our focus for the season. We're almost going to look okay, as long as it's not pulling, it's fine. Maybe that's wrong.
I am sympathetic to what you're saying about the Dragish push thing and the lacking consistency there, even though Fulham absolutely battered you, and I think that's the more concerning part.
I'm not making Arsenal
but,
and Fulham. I'm not making any excuses whatsoever. We didn't deserve to win any of those games. But when you look at those moments, all of them have been at decisive points in the game. But the Fulham thing, we got battered. I can definitely live with that.
To back up the refs a little bit, as you've said, there's fouls going on all the time in that box.
Give the first one. Yeah. Give the first one.
Well,
go to VAR.
All right. Well,
look, if that first one is a penalty, give the penalty.
Exactly. But they almost haven't set a precedent for that yet this season. And this has to be a rule which will come in towards at the start of next year. They will line out some rules and say something like this. We can't just go going around just making up rules, going, well, they should be doing this.
They shouldn't even have to make the rule up. That was a rule in football anyway. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like, the fan scrutiny is so divided anyway. If they start blowing up and giving fouls against one way or the other, then they'll be like, look at VAR, look at everything else that's going on. I almost think just let it play out. And it's almost like a dog-eat-dog game in there. I always think let it play out because if they're all doing it
over the pitch,
they're all doing it
over the pitch.
No, it doesn't happen all over the pitch though. It's not happening all over the pitch where they're all crammed together like wrestling with each other.
But it doesn't matter. Like that, the issue is the referees have let it go too far. Like it's okay. Look, being shoulder to shoulder, and even to a degree when you've got your arms around them, and we're not cuddling them where it's all the way around, but when we've seen it throughout years where it's almost kind of like guiding them into a certain.
If a cross comes into the box from open play, and I don't know, as an example, João Pedro is going to. It's a ball that comes in from wide. It's a fairly open penalty area, and João Pedro goes to head it, and Saliba's got his arms around him and stops him getting to the ball. That is a penalty.
Penalty.
So why isn't it from? I just feel like they've tied.
It's interesting. It is interesting.
But I feel like we slightly have gone off from the point originally around set pieces in the league.
All right,
and I would agree to you that
here I find it so funny that people are getting so irate and suddenly taking a high horse about set pieces. If you go to Stoke and you say to Stoke fans, if you could be back in the Premier League playing Tony Pulis football, finishing mid-table, surviving, occasionally pushing high up the table, they take it in a heartbeat. There are loads of teams. It's so funny to me that like people have realised how deadly sides can be at set pieces. As you said, marginal gains. Yeah. And it is slightly embarrassing for a team like Arsenal who are winning the league off the basis of it right now. But at the end of the day, I just wonder what fans want sometimes. They want attacking football, but then they want to survive. They want to spend money, but they want to do it in a sustainable way, even though no one really knows the money going on in football clubs. Yeah. They want to win games, but they don't want to win via set pieces. Realistically, you just want to see your team winning games of football. And I'm sorry, that is a blanket.
I agree with that, but also there has to be a line at some point where it's the rules of the game aren't doing what they should be doing. I do agree, like...
Yeah, but we got set pieces,
but we're going... No, Ben, we're not talking about that. We're talking about just like the fundamental reality of set pieces now being a big part of scoring goals.
Yeah, of course, but also a fundamental part of why set pieces are successful is because players are getting away with what should be fouls.
It pisses me off.
That's why there has to be a line.
You are right in that sense.
But it pisses me off, for example, just to try and stay on our point, like Barcelona playing a stupid high line, and everyone's going, wow, what an amazing team. Look how adventurous and creative they are going forward because they sit on the halfway line, and then they play Inter last year, and Inter score 3 or 4, how many goals it was against them in the semi-finals, and people are still like, it's mental that Inter won that because Barcelona are playing the attractive football. It's like, no, if you're going to play stupid football just to look aesthetically
but that's also
pleasing,
just game management. Like, you can play that way, but also that's down to players and the manager to then sprinkle, like we were talking about marginal games with set pieces, right? If you've got Inter by the throat, and as they did in that game at points where Yamal was all over them, somehow didn't score some of those chances. They were very unlucky in the attacking aspects of the game. You have to learn to manage the game better. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't then go and play great football. It's a balance, isn't it? And that's what you're trying to say with everything. I do agree broadly with your point that fans sometimes don't know what they want. But I also do think when the rules of the game aren't doing what they should do to stop instances like that from happening, which then we've come to this point where set piece is just like the Wild West and you can get away with everything. I do think there has to be a line at that point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, but it used to be that goalkeepers were overprotected and like a goalie could just literally run out and go like that and he'd get a free kick.
I still think they are, to be honest.
I mean, well, if you look at what's going on in the box,
really? You think they're overprotected now?
A little bit, yeah.
I think
it's not as bad as it used to be.
They won the other day, like coming out. Like, you saw a penalty get given against West Ham for which I thought was a bit unlucky, where Areola comes out
in that instance. But I feel like overall goalkeepers actually, if anything, are now under
maybe with set pieces and sort of like getting pinned back in the goal. Yeah, maybe.
I think, funnily enough, in football, and I've mentioned it a few times, football is this circle where someone finds out how to do something that ends up being quite good for them and having a lot of success. It was like, for instance, Pep Guardiola's Barcelona and having a possession-based style system. Once everybody else catches up to go and do that,
football then resets.
And something else becomes a thing.
I agree.
And I think and it wouldn't shock me if in 2 years' time we do see a team playing attractive style of football in a way that beats it.
I agree. But like I do think, to go back to the kind of Liverpool point as well, like you look at their
we've
game,
gone a bit far
you look
here.
at their game at the weekend, like for example, their first 3 goals were from set pieces.
To
go 3-0 against West Ham at home, where I watched that game and that was not a 5-2 game whatsoever. And of course, you're going to get games like that where teams win and get over the line in ways where maybe they didn't necessarily deserve it. And West Ham were plucky and played well, but you know they're very effective from it as well. And I think, look, with Liverpool, maybe it was naive, and I think this has kind of maybe changed how we all kind of look at the signings and these kind of things going forward and the money being spent. It's impossible not to get sucked in by the quality of players that they were buying. And I do think at points last season, Liverpool played better football than people kind of gave them credit for. A lot of people said it was still Klopp's team. I thought there was a sprinkling of what Slot wanted to do on it, and they were playing well. They deserved to win the league. I don't think it was just solely down to City having an off year, Arsenal towards the end of the season sort of falling away a little bit and then focusing more on the Champions League. I just thought that Wirtz would come in and take to the league like a duck towards it because of his quality, and you got it wrong. I think it was almost...
These predictions are never easy, man.
Yeah, it's tough. But they
always happen.
And I think now they're in I certainly didn't think they'd get to a situation where it was like, he might not be their manager in the summer. And even like the last... So they said last night that I think Liverpool, prior to the Wolves game, had only lost 2 in 21 games. And they've been getting away with it a hell of a lot. And I didn't foresee it going anywhere near like this. But this also, the prediction was kind of made under the guys like we were talking about the recruitment. I think if they'd have got Mark Gahey, for example, and Konate I think has been really good, well, up until last night, him and Van Dijk have really kind of found that again recently. They've been really strong. But I think if they'd have got Mark Gahey in at the start of the season to give Konate more competition, because I remember the Newcastle game that they had where they won 3-2 in the last minute at the start. It was like Konate had an absolute mare, and it was straight away thinking, right, go and wrap this deal up now. While you're still winning a few games at the start of the season, make sure you go and get that deal done, because you've seen Mark Gahey step into Man City and be able to transform that team in a way to help them from being whatever points they were behind Arsenal to now the league being in their hands. Obviously, Semenyo has done that as well. And maybe they could have gone and bought another winger in the summer. Because again, sorry, I was just going to say, final thing. When you look ahead to the summer, Liverpool have probably still got to spend another £100 million at least to go and get 2 more wingers. Gakpo this season has been really poor. Salah we've already spoken about. It's crazy that the money they've spent, and there's still so many holes in that team. And I didn't think it would end up like that at the end of the window. So it's on them. More than it's on me, obviously, who made the prediction.
Yeah, no, I do think that not signing Gahey is probably the biggest... I'm trying to think of a bigger mistake
this
season. For them to be like, nah, we'll leave it. We don't need to spend 35 million when we've just spent 135 on a striker we didn't necessarily even need.
You make your own luck in football. It's like with Leone, like obviously you were expecting a lot from an 18-year-old to be able to step up, but for him to go and do his ACL, and I think it was like the first round of the Carabao Cup, straight after the window closes, it's like you make your own luck, don't you, really? It's like, I've said that with Tottenham for ages with the injury crisis that we've had. It's like, yeah, you get unlucky with certain people doing their ACLs or getting big innocuous injuries like Kulusevski, Maddison and Odebear last month. But all of that and the mess that we're in now is as a result of bad squad planning. So I think it doesn't really matter how much money you spend. I think it's a lesson now moving forward. And it was there anyway, but I think we all got kind of sucked in by the quality of players that Liverpool were buying. It's about squad planning and balance, and Liverpool massively lack that.
Can I just move it on to why I didn't have Arsenal as title favourites?
And we'll talk about Chelsea afterwards.
Again, I just didn't feel, and I don't necessarily disagree with this, I didn't feel like the signings necessarily took them to the next level. I'm willing to admit I was wrong about Zubimendi. I don't think I ever really appreciated just how good of a footballer he is. And he's, there's a reason Xabi Alonso wanted him at Real Madrid. He's quite evidently an exceptional footballer. And I didn't necessarily see Declan Rice taking the step up into...
It's also what Zubimendi has done to Rice as well. Like
exactly that. I didn't necessarily see that blossoming as much. I stand by Gyökeres not being the signing that I thought he was going to be. I know he's hit 10 goals and he looked good. He's not looked good enough for the money that they've paid for him, basically. And he's not been... Really, if you're winning the league... I mean, I know goals are down across all of Europe, except unless you're Harry Kane at the moment. But it's not been good enough from Gyökeres. Madueke... Question marks about the signing at the time. There was a point where he looked good. There are some more question marks again because he hasn't really put in the numbers. So, Arsenal might limp over the line as champions this year, but we've all said it already. It's not the most convincing title win of all time. And I thought, given the way that Liverpool started, given what did I have Chelsea third?
Yeah, Chelsea third,
given the optimism around Chelsea and how successful they'd been in the Club World Cup, where they did look really good.
Yeah,
you know, that performance against PSG was really, for me, a marker that they were going in the right direction. And I was quite surprised to see the way that Enzo fell out of the club so spectacularly, and Cole Palmer's perhaps not been up to the qualities that we expect him this year. So I don't think it's unrealistic to assume that Chelsea, off the back of their summer, were going to be in a strong position. Liverpool, with the players they bought in, were going to be in a strong position. And City, again,
we all felt like City were going to come back this year.
They could win the league.
Yeah.
I didn't see enough change in Arsenal to suggest that they would have taken the league by storm. But then, respectively, I'm not too surprised. Because City haven't been at the
I also feel
races.
like a lot of other teams have dropped off as well. And this isn't to really discredit Arsenal loads, but it's not like Arsenal have been absolute front runners miles and miles ahead of everybody else. They've just kind of been decently good. And a few other teams have been decently bad.
I think
Liverpool massively dropping off. City at times were really poor throughout the season.
Someone said it on the overlap, didn't they? Where it was like the only reason why Arsenal won't win the league this year is because of Arsenal, isn't it? Really, in terms of like
if they don't,
the buffer that they kind of gave themselves to be able to. Like they should be in a stronger position than they are fundamentally. Even though, like you said, I wasn't convinced they were going to do it.
I think it's really fascinating. But I will say, though, that the Champions League and perhaps the rest of European football, more so European Conference League, has exposed just how good the Premier League is relative to other divisions at the moment, because what we're talking about here is clubs getting swallowed up in the competitiveness of the Premier League. The fact that if you have an off day, you might get a draw or lose against Bournemouth or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Easily.
Whereas even Wolves, exactly, case in point. I don't think that necessarily happens in every other division as consistently as it does in the Premier League. So it shows when they are stepping into the Champions League, when they almost have that exciting respite from the Premier League, they are stepping up. And like, look at like Gordon, third top scorer in the Champions League. It's unbelievable.
Spurs in the Champions League.
Spurs, yeah. I mean, that is an anomaly. That is actually insane. That's happened. But yeah, I don't feel too bad about those predictions.
I think you're fair enough. Like, again, we had Chelsea fourth, you had them third. I spoke most about Chelsea. We all agreed that we think João Pedro was going to be an unbelievable signing. I think he's gone on to prove that. We might chat about him a little bit more.
I really didn't understand the sort of the doubts about that.
There was a period between like November, October, ending October, November, where a few Chelsea fans were getting a little bit.
But everyone at the start of the season went like, "I don't get it." Like, I don't get it. He's another one.
I guess it's because he wasn't a number 9, and it was like a half striker. Where I feel like this season he's proven like, no, the guy, and like, look, he's not a traditional number 9, but he is the striker.
Very good.
I mentioned my worries for how young the team is.
Probably true.
Yeah, most red cards in the season, experience, and
I also worry that this might be the season Palmer gets an injury.
Yeah.
And evidently, and I said, if that does happen, I think that could be a big issue for Chelsea. And I think, funnily enough, Chelsea have actually won more games than without him than with him. But when he has played, he just hasn't looked at all the same player. Like, the groin injury is causing a big issue.
He looks very frustrated with himself, doesn't he?
And I wonder whether, like, I don't know if Cole Palmer starts for England, and it feels mad to say this after the debate that we had.
Is that the best prediction of the season?
There's a chance.
There's a chance. November, but
if he's not starting for England, then I wonder if it's almost easy to say, go have the surgery.
Do you know what's so funny about that debate is you go to Chelsea fans, they go, what do you mean? Cole Palmer has to start for England.
I love his accents depending on what the fan base is from.
And then you go, well, why?
What do you mean?
They're like, it's Cole Palmer. I'm like, well, let's really dig into this.
Yeah.
What has he done this year to suggest that he should start for England?
If he's a fully fit Cole Palmer, it's different. Like, but the issue is he's just fit. No, you're right. And I wonder, from a selfish Chelsea point of view, whether it's worth kind of saying to him or suggesting to him, look, and I don't know how he feels about the national team because he's not really played much in the national team. He had obviously the Euros where he came off the bench a few times.
Also,
got the big goal against Spain.
How many times has he played under Tuchel?
I think he might have played once on the Tuchel. Once. And maybe he'll get called up to the next break coming up soon.
The only thing I'd say about Cole Palmer, there's never been questions of his professionalism.
Yeah.
He seems to be, and Tuchel, I think, above everything, likes professionalism.
And maybe there is a thing in your mind where you just go, can we leave Cole Palmer at home for the World Cup?
Oh yeah, the interesting one now, not to go off topic too much, Jude Bellingham's out until April with a hamstring injury. This whole debate of he has to start, I think it's gone. Yeah. Like, at the end of the day, he can't just assume that he's going to come back because I don't think we're taking these chances as England anymore. And I know Morgan Rogers isn't really.
No,
I mean,
it might actually help. It actually might help Tuchel if one of them decide to like, I've got to have a surgery, or I've got.
Then
to,
again,
like,
though, I shout out to Ollie Thomas. Made this video yesterday. He's doing a series on his channel about England every week. And I was talking to him yesterday before he made the video, and he was saying that like the number 10 was a massive problem position in the sense that that we had like this wealth of options. We had a gluttony in terms of like, you could play Palmer there, Bellingham, Rodgers, Eze potentially as well. Like we had all of these players that could probably go and play there. And now actually you're looking at it thinking, well, you're still thinking who's going to play, but the narrative is completely flipped from actually it's become a problem position in the other sense where it's like no one's in form. Yeah. Hardly any of them are fit. What do you do? Foden obviously had a bit of a remontada and has now found himself out the team as well. Like, so it's become a bit of a problem position for England. So don't watch the video on it. It was good.
Well, yeah, please do.
Just get Harry Kane in. Just let him do everything.
Harry Kane do everything. Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Ballon d'Or. Let's go.
So yeah, the other thing I said about Chelsea is I worry about the defence.
Well, you're right again.
Centre-back. So maybe I know what I'm on about every now and again when it comes to Chelsea.
It's crazy that you didn't go and sign an experienced centre-back in the summer.
Again, we mentioned it. We brought up Mark Gehi in that and how it was mad that Chelsea didn't go out to try and do that. Okay, the next three positions I'll mention and we'll talk about some of the talking points. Henry had Spurs 5th, Villa 6th, Newcastle 7th. Ben had Spurs 5th, Brighton 6th, Villa 7th. I had Villa 5th, not bad for me. Brighton 6th, not so good. Spurs 7th.
Again.
And I was toying with putting Spurs 8th as well.
Just on Spurs here, just to give them a bit of
We've got a few
respite.
talking about Spurs. Go ahead, yeah.
Again, we all liked the hiring of Thomas Frank at the start of the season.
I've got some great quotes for Ben, by the way.
Yeah. We like that hiring. We then have the Club World Cup, not Club World Cup, the
UEFA
Super Cup,
yeah,
where they played very well.
That was brought up quite a lot
against PSG. Okay, and then who did you sign in the summer?
Mohamed Kudus,
Paulinho,
Javi Simmons. Simmons wasn't signed by that point.
No, he hadn't signed that point. Right.
But we were looking.
You actually said in the video, Simmons might be a nice backup to Cole Palmer.
Yeah, okay. And then also I'm looking at Bergvall and Archie Gray thinking these guys are 1 year older and already like brilliant footballers.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking you're looking at that going, Spurs are destined for a good year. Obviously, who could have foreseen the total?
Let me say a few of these quotes from Ben.
Please.
Ben Bowman.
You have the floor.
Ben, I do feel really good about Spurs this season. If we add Eze and Savinho, it can solve a lot of our issues. This was pre-signing Simmons. Ben, I am slightly worried about Spurs' output in the forward line, though. Not too bad. I do really like Thomas Frank's adaptability, and I think he makes Spurs more the sum of their parts.
Yeah.
That did not happen.
No.
He goes, Thomas Frank will take Spurs tactically to another level.
That's fair enough.
And then we also mentioned all of us that the biggest transfer for Spurs this summer was Thomas Frank, and that is the deciding thing for them.
Yeah. In Ben's defence again,
they're not actually.
In Ben's defence again, we're talking about going from a system under Postecoglou, which only in like the last 2 games of his campaign did we see that he was capable of defending.
Adapting,
There was just one mode,
Yes.
okay? And then you've got Thomas Frank, who very eloquently on multiple YouTube channels and within games itself has explained how he adapted his Brentford side to do multiple different things. So it's not out of the ordinary to assume that they would be...
No. It's funny for us to look back on now. Yeah. I think at the time, everybody had this same assumption. For years, everybody looked at Thomas Frank as a manager. And look, I don't know if we want to go into it too in depth because we've been through this a million times now. Yeah. But we all felt that Thomas Frank had the ability to take the step up. We all thought he spoke really well. We thought he'd proven tactically he knows what to do in the Premier League. Evidently, it's proving time and time again that making this jump from a mid-size club like Brentford, like Brighton, managerially, and taking that step up to one of the big boys that have a huge stadium, that have a huge fan base, but are looking to spend hundreds of millions every single summer, it's a tough thing to do. And a lot of these managers are struggling in ways. You know, I think out of all the managers we've said in the last few years, the only manager really to have done it successfully, and I'm not counting Arne Slot in this, I think Arne Slot was actually at a pretty big club in the Netherlands, was Enzo Maresca. And he got sacked.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think looking back, it's funny to laugh at and it's funny to look at, but I don't think it's something really that we can look back at the time and go like, oh, what a howl what were we saying then?
Yeah, I think
because I think it all made sense at the time.
Most people massively assumed that he'd just raise our level and I think at least compete for Europe.
None of us are saying here, we've all got him here still finishing outside of Europe in some of us have anyway. Ben
you
had
had 7.
I had 7.
Wait,
We
who
both
you
had
Spurs? Yeah. So,
right. And so it wasn't like, and even 5th, I think you boys in the video are a bit like, look, could be 6th, could be 5th, depending on what happens.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's anything too shocking. We all mentioned about the depth in the squad. If they don't go and get the right signings in, is going to be an issue.
Yeah, and I think I would have said as well, and it's something I said throughout the summer, that I was pleased with the business that we did do. I don't know whether I spoke about Paulinho in that video, but obviously Paulinho had a really good game in the Super Cup, as we kind of mentioned, but I think I probably would have said that, and it's something I said throughout the summer, that was a position where I think we needed to go out and sign someone that was a lot more well-rounded than him, was a lot better on the ball, and a good squad piece gives you experience, but not that. And also fullback has cost us massively because Destiny Udogie, I think, is a great
left back in it.
Yeah, we needed to go and sign a left back because we've had this problem for ages where Udogie has shown how good of a player he can be in the Premier League, but with that, the knock-on effect of not signing a left back and the effect that has on Pedro Porro and Jed Spence as well, because Porro, he picked up his first injury at the club in January since he's been here, basically. Played more games than anyone under Postecoglou. Had a really bad spell for like a couple of months prior to his injury against Burnley because he's been way overplayed. And because Jed Spence is being used as our like auxiliary left back because we don't actually have enough left back to cover Udogie, despite the fact that we know that Udogie is key to making any system that Spurs play work because of the balance and what he can give you going forward. To not sign left back was absolutely crazy.
Insane.
And it's something that, again, I thought we would look at towards the end of the window. Savinho was another one where, like, I was really hyped about Savinho at the time. I thought he was the right kind of profile.
Has he played this season?
Not really. He had a bit of an injury at the start.
He's got
But,
Semenyo
it's been
in.
really underwhelming.
Big myth. The big myth.
I genuinely thought for Tottenham, I thought he'd be good for us, but and
We all
again,
did.
it's
all did.
we got it wrong on Frank. I can hold my hands up on that. The club should have held their
Can I
hands
ask
up
you a
on
question?
that a lot earlier.
Would you take Marco Silva as your manager now?
Yeah.
You come around
He
to this,
wants to
haven't
bring
you?
the tweet up.
Yeah.
No. I just find it so there are still like Spurs fans out there like, nah, he's not good enough. He doesn't match the ambition. I'm like, sorry.
No, I think-
what is your ambition right now?
I think Marco Silva. Like, I think part of the reason that I turned my nose up at Marco Silva, turn my nose up. The reason why I wasn't as pro Silva as I would be now is because you look at him and his, maybe he's a bit of a hothead at times, kind of relationship with the board and all those kind of things. At Tottenham, obviously, what that can then, the challenges that then brings. But in terms of the football, like obviously to reference the game on Sunday, we were obviously really poor. But I think what you see with Marco Silva, almost as a bit of an antidote to all of the things that we were talking about earlier in the way that the Premier League is going, they've recruited players and that suit the style that he wants to. But just about. Like you can question Fulham's recruitment and the timing of it and all those kind of things. But in terms of actual players, like to technically, like the floor of your team technically is really high, and it's like you look like you're almost playing with an extra man against us, and that's not hard, but it's such a different priority to where Tottenham have kind of gone in terms of following that trend of like physical, all those kind of things. Let's make sure we win our duels, which we don't even do anyway. But I think Marco Silva, in the way that he plays football, I think I would just kind of sacrifice the thing about the ball. Yeah, I would take Marco Silva.
Again, not to go off topic too much, but I genuinely think Fulham, if we can get him to sign like a new 2-year deal,
I think you could kick on.
and I think we're one good window away from like filling a few gaps in that side.
Doing a Brentford.
Get a
Well,
striker.
yeah, if
but
Brentford
we're a
could be
better
in the-
team. We're a better team. If we had Igor Thiago up front,
Yeah.
I promise you we'd be laughing right now.
Yeah.
Well, we better just wait till we get on to
Yeah,
Thiago.
let's keep going, Zach.
Quickly, I mentioned that Villa, we're going to have a pretty decent season. I like the fact they hadn't lost any big players in the window.
Where did I have Villa? 7th.
You, my friend, had Villa in 7th.
Yeah.
Henry had them in
still
6th. I had them.
Yeah, they could
in
still, they
5th.
could drop.
They could drop.
You're right. Yeah, it might end up actually. They end
Mark
up in
Bizzle.
9th.
And starting the season terribly as well. Villa.
They did. But yeah, I think
Unai
they
looks
ended up-
frustrated. Unai is looking increasingly frustrated.
every
That
game.
Wolves game.
Every game.
Yeah, the whole like not shaking hands with Robert. Like the
Poor.
bloke's just won the second, maybe his first or second game of the year. Shake the man's hand.
Yeah, he did it to Arteta as well, didn't he?
As I mentioned,
Fair
so Henry had Brighton in 8th. Ben had Brighton in 6th. I had Brighton in 6th. We do talk about Brighton. Henry, you come off pretty well in this. You go on a whole rant that you're worried about Brighton not having a proper 11 and that the squad and the players that they're losing out on now, having lost João Pedro, they've lost obviously several players throughout the years, could start to hit them this season. You feel like that we said that they might do okay, but yeah, you had them that they could actually finish a little bit lower. You also mentioned Bournemouth for that in this, but we'll talk about them in a bit. But you basically said you're worried about what what this season might be for them. They haven't got a set 11, and that's kind
true.
of what the issue
There is. Look, they won at the weekend. They've pulled their socks up the last few games and realised, I think, woken up to the fact they were sleepwalking towards a fairly dismal season.
Mm-hmm.
They still like that Gomez goal. Is it Garcia Gomez?
Gomez. Yeah,
Again.
great.
That goal.
He just scores bangers.
That goal is like, what's the XG on that? It's low, okay? And then I actually really love the Danny Welbeck goal. I think that's a
really
proper
good
striker's
centre
goal.
forward,
And Danny Welbeck hitting 10 goals again, I'd love that
Get
guy.
him on the plane.
I honestly, if Tuchel said, because Ollie Watkins seems to have lost the ability to shoot, if Tuchel said Danny Welbeck's going to be our backup striker, I'd be like, fine, whatever. I've literally no issue with it whatsoever.
Let's do it.
So,
Let's dance.
yeah, but Brighton have proven my point. Like, what are they? Are they just a team that sometimes show up? Because they've lost that edge of being the team that will give all the big boys
A run for their money.
a run for their money. I think the momentum that they've built in terms of the cocksureness of their recruitment and their ability just to keep evolving has run out.
Do you think the league change, as you mentioned earlier, the style of football in the league has hit them?
No,
because of that as well? And teams like Brentford, for instance, have adapted.
No, because
well
They
to
did
it.
go and beat Brentford a couple of weeks ago, to be fair.
Yeah,
but
but-
yeah, obviously they'd won they'd won 2 games since November, I think, before that Brentford game.
Yeah, it's just look. They keep selling these players and just assume. Like, look at the 2 Greek fellas they've bought in, Zimas and Kostoulas. They've done absolutely nothing, and they cost money, like serious money. There's so many. In the way that I said a few weeks ago, like the waste on £50 million players is so ridiculous in the Premier League at the moment. For Brighton, at a similar level, around the 30 to 35 million pound mark, the waste, and just assuming that these guys will come good, like Gruder. Where's he gone? He was like a 25 million pound signing.
Yeah, I thought he'd be really good.
Like,
He is good. Like, he's a decent player, but they've got so many of them all over the pitch, haven't they?
Yeah.
And there's no they've got the most experienced player in the league, I guess, technically now in James Milner. But there's not loads there, is there?
Yeah,
that's helping them?
it shows. They had to go and get Pascal Gross this winter, just to like.
Right.
They've gone, sorry, we need some players that actually recognise what it is to play football for this club.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pascal Gross, you're 35. So they've now got Milner, Gross and Welbeck, who are basically the figureheads of this club. I wouldn't be surprised if Jason Steele got back in goal at some point. I mean, Brighton, I'm really over them. I actually would love to see Ange at Brighton. I'd like to see Ange have a crack with those players and just
Could be
unleash
interesting.
Matoma. But yeah.
Let's go down a few more. So I'll go from 7th. I know we might mention some of these again. I might mention them already. Henry, 7th Newcastle, 8th Brighton, 9th Man United, 10th Everton, 11th Palace, 12th Fulham, 13th Bournemouth. Ben, 7th Villa, Newcastle 8th, Man United 9th, 10th Everton, Bournemouth 11th, Nottingham Forest 12th. But again, you've got Forest quite low, to be fair, Henry, well done. Palace 13th. Myself, I go from 8th Newcastle, 9th Man United, 10th Everton, 11th Bournemouth, 12th Nottingham Forest, 13th Fulham, and 14th Palace. Now
basically the same.
we're not too far apart. Newcastle wise, we actually said that we think Gordon could be on for a good season, which in the Champions League he's done very well at. In the Premier League, it's been a bit more.
He's a great player.
Starting.
He's a great
He
player.
is a great player. He really is. Ben, you called Isak leaving. I thought that he would stay at Newcastle. You were critical of Newcastle signings, Ben. You also mentioned someone on a bit later. And you also mentioned their failure to change a style of play, which has hit them a bit this season.
literally all their fans
I think-
talking about at the moment.
Yeah, so I think we actually did cover Newcastle, especially you, Ben, there, decently well.
I saw them unveil a big tifo to Eddie Howe the other day. It seems like they do back him. I
think the Discord, basically, I think what happened was they went obviously on that run of losing games, and then of course they went and beat Tottenham. And at the end of the game, I was obviously there watching. Eddie Howe got such an amazing reception so I think they're like their core fans, because they love what he's done for the club, are behind him. But I do think there are a lot of their fans that are critical of the lack of ability to adapt. And I do think it's almost a bit of an elephant in the room, I think, with Eddie Howe, in terms of like, because of what he's done, the credit in the bank that he's got, maybe some of them, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Newcastle fans, I'm just kind of talking about some of the discourse that I've seen in terms of style of play. It's like maybe some of them don't want to accept, because of what he's done previously, that maybe they might need another manager that is going to take them that next step. But I do think he's got. I felt like the recruitment was too safe. I thought they were too kind of. Not that this is always a bad thing, but like two plug-in and play Eddie Howe style players, and I feel like they need to take a bit more risk. And I feel like you've seen that in their football this season, where they feel like they're not evolved.
You called Langer the worst signing of the window, which
yeah,
probably
is it the worst?
away?
But it's definitely up there. I think.
Yeah,
I think
it's in the conversation.
We'll talk about the worst sign of the window again towards the end, but yeah, you were pretty spot on. I think we've done well there with Newcastle. Around Manchester United, it's interesting. I know we all had them 10th or 9th, was it?
I had them 9th.
We all had them 9th.
9th as well.
We all had them 9th. But the context we actually give, I think it's pretty good. We talk about how we love their forward signings. We said they're really good. We said that will fix their goals issue. Was it gone and done?
It's fixed their goals issue.
Fixed their goals issue. One of the top, if not the most goals scored in the league. Doing very well.
is flying, mate.
And then we said how we're worried about the midfield, but we prefax it. We give it the context under Amarim.
Yes.
Later on, when we talk about the managers to be sacked, I actually say I think Amarim might be the third manager to go in the league. And I don't think I was that far away from it. And that we said Man United after Amarim could be pretty good. So not too bad. Not too bad all in all. Like we didn't go loads into Man United. I think we'd done a Man United video not too long
they've just been
before
beat by
that.
Grimsby.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's semi-unprecedented that Carrick goes and beats City and Arsenal.
Definitely did not expect anything this level of it.
But I also don't think you can understate the importance of not having any other distractions of cup competitions.
Yeah, of course.
United are on to play their lowest amount of games across a calendar year, I think, than in almost like wartime or something like that is what they were saying. So, and that does mean that he's able to stand there on the training pitch and tell them what to do, more or less. But you can't take away the facts. Like they've got the nice problem of do they play Sesko or not? Because when they play him, he scores goals, but they probably play worse football. But when they,
comes off the bench, still scores.
He looks electric, man.
He's got.
Really
I said he's way better than Gyökeres.
You
He's out of the Bundesliga.
You did compliment on the video, but So I think whilst we have put Man United 9th, I think with that context, we were going into that with Amarim doing the whole season. I think that's pretty good. And if anything, with him, if he would have stayed there, they might finish below 9th.
Yeah. Key thing is just like with Carrick is also like what you said, the time, but also the balance of the team. Like kind of going into the thing what you said about Amarim in the midfield. Kobe Mainoo back in the team, Casemiro sitting behind him, Bruno Fernandes is a natural position. It's amazing what you can make happen when you've got three players of that quality and experience. And that's not to take anything away from Carrick at all. Sometimes the obvious answers are staring at you in the face, and I think that was the biggest problem that Amarim didn't adapt to.
Every single time. Bit too stubborn.
Yes.
We all had Everton 10th, and we all said we liked their window.
about right.
And we all mentioned about how much we loved their front four. We really liked the Barry signing, who has taken a bit of time, but I think he's getting there.
I think Everton fans like him
are
at the
starting to really
moment,
like him. We said we loved
the alternatives better.
We loved the we loved the three behind him. Grealish in particular, we'll mention in a bit. But we gave him a lot of props.
Dewsbury Hall, one of the best signings of the year.
Well, someone might have said that. We'll see.
He is wonderful. He's such a good footballer.
I'm really happy for him. I'm really happy.
Everton could legit leapfrog Brentford and take that conference
really good
league
chance.
spot.
I think they will. I think Brentford will start to sort of
Crystal Palace.
Eagles.
We mentioned that we think Gehi will stay, but Eze will leave, which we're kind of right with. None of us predicted him leaving in January, but I think that would have been a bit of a mad prediction to have made anyway. We said we obviously loved Glasner. This is them coming off the back of winning the Community Shield. Obviously, none of us even getting an inkling of thinking about what could have gone on for Palace. We actually said we're worried someone might go on and take Glasner from Palace during the season. Henry, you had Palace in 11th. Ben, you had Palace in 13th. I had Palace in 14th. So maybe I'm not actually a million miles away.
That is basically, well, Palace, the joke is it's like 12 again at lower layer, isn't it? Like.
So maybe we're not too far off our actual predictions, but I don't think we saw it going as bad as it has gone for them this season.
No, I also think we probably mentioned Europe in the fact that might curtail their league form slightly, and I think that's obviously had a massive impact.
Then Bournemouth. Bournemouth, we mentioned how we liked the Trafford signing.
Yep.
We liked how they kept a lot of their core players in attack and think that could be really useful for them, which I think it has been. But we were worried about the defence with the two centre-backs leaving and Kirkes leaving. And again, it's not that I think Marcus Senesi has done a bad job, all the other kind of rotating centre-backs, or even like Petrovic in goal. Just kind of all over, they've not been at the races like they have been in previous seasons.
Yeah.
Again, maybe that's to do with the league. Also, everyone kind of knows what they want to do now. You know, the first season under Areola was a bit more of a surprise. People were shocked at how great Bournemouth were doing at it. The likes of Semenyo as well, obviously tearing up again. They lost him in January. So I'm not surprised that it's kind of gone on to what's happened. Again, I had Bournemouth in 11th. You had him in 11th, Ben, and Henry had him in 13th. So we're not a million miles away from that. Where are they at the moment, Henry?
What, Palace?
Bournemouth.
Oh,
Ninth.
They're in 9th. But to be honest, the way the league
again, one win,
swings,
one loss.
They could be 13th.
Brighton have a positive goal difference of +3. Which I don't think I've ever seen that for a team so low down the table in 12th. So the point is that
it can swap around quite easily.
It can swap around very quickly.
You're
There's 4 points between 11th and 7th.
Then Fulham, we mentioned at the time hadn't bought anybody in the window, but they hadn't sold anyone. We said we wish they'd signed more players. Again, this is pre them signing Kevin, but we also mentioned in this same section anyone of Fulham, Everton, or Bournemouth could end up finishing quite high.
Woohoo!
We all agreed with that, yeah.
There's just one snake in the pack.
Not a million miles there.
True, yeah.
Yeah, Brentford.
We'll come to Brentford because...
not a million miles away with that, I think, Henry. So not too bad. And then let's mention Forest here now. Henry's prediction, again, I'll give you the context. I said Nottingham Forest going to finish 12th. Ben said 12th. Henry said 16th.
Come on.
Henry in the video does not like Nottingham Forest.
Correct.
We mentioned they've kept Morgan Gibbs-White.
I like him a lot.
But Henry said they've had a shocking pre-season, which they had. I mentioned the fact, look, they're going to be playing more football this season with Europe as well. Their depth wasn't amazing, though they were signing players. And we also said there's no guarantees, actually, you mentioned this, Henry, there's no guarantees about their strikers that they brought in hitting the ground running.
Yeah.
And that relying on Chris Wood again probably isn't the safest strategy. So you're pretty spot on there, Henners. You've done a pretty good job.
Well done, mate.
Thank you, everyone. Clip that up, share it, tell your friends. I was correct about Forest. No, I mean, look, I don't think it's good that a team can fire their manager 3 times and stay up. I really think that's... If people are getting pissed off about set pieces, they should get more pissed off around managers. That's a real concern for me, that there's just the ability just to fire.
Also, to go from different... they've had 4 managers this season that all play wildly different styles of football as well.
Yeah. I actually think if they got in Vitor Pereira... I know he's at Wolves. Was he at Wolves?
It was at Wolves.
Yeah. I know.
We mentioned we all like Vitor Pereira at Wolves.
Yeah. Well, I don't dislike him. I really don't dislike him. I mean,
look, Wolves a bit.
Forest. It's not good. They signed. I think Doogie was talking about it on The Truth. Is that they signed 13 players and lo and behold, none of them work. So you've got 2 things. They just fire their manager loads, and they just spent loads of fairly questionable money on players. I don't necessarily think... I get them saying to Nuno, no, you're not signing Adama Traore. We're trying to move on from that kind of signing. I do get that.
Wing back.
But at the same time, just lumping him with loads of random guys that some agent has recommended and gone, Igor Jesus. I do like him.
He's been all right.
But he's not a goal-scoring forward. I thought Ndoye would be better. There's a few...
He's had flashes.
Kalimwendo, I was really surprised to see him gone already. But it's Forest are a textbook of how not to run a club this year. It's been so awful. And the fact they might still stay up, I think, is a shame. I think for that alone, for basically taking the mick out of football this year, I think they should be relegated. And I like West Ham. I want to see West Ham stay up, and I want to see Millwall come up as well. So and then I want to see the ultimate ding dong in the Premier League. No, you know what? Just on Spurs,
we're back
staying up. Yeah, someone said this in the office. An Arsenal fan said this in the office. Actually, he was like, "Look, it's all funny Spurs going down, and it would be funny, but at the end of the day, it does just make the Premier League worse." It does just make... You do just lose one of the good clubs, one of the big clubs in the Premier League.
Fuck it up, though. I think it shows that any club can go down.
Don't fuck it up.
Spurs versus Arsenal, City, United, Liverpool, Chelsea. All of those games are box office every single year.
Yeah, because they get battered half time.
No, they don't know, because Spurs weirdly get up for it and they have a go at it.
I don't know.
Spurs is always a box office game. Everyone wants to play and beat Spurs. I think Spurs going down and just Coventry coming up doesn't do any wonders.
No, I get what you mean, but I know Ben doesn't want to hear this, but I think if Spurs were to get relegated, it shows to every club that you fuck it up,
I agree with
you can go down.
I agree with
I do
you.
agree with
I
that,
don't like.
yeah.
I don't like
don't
the
actually
idea
care
that
if they get
there is
relegated or not.
No, I know, but I don't like the idea that all the top 6 clubs can just be like, if we fuck it up, we'll stay up. It's all right.
No, Zach, I agree with you, but it does fundamentally make it worse as a TV, as a neutral spectacle.
For Spurs fans, definitely. For
I
Arsenal
love
fans,
beating
might be.
Spurs every year.
Sorry, I thought I'd just throw that little grenade out there.
Okay. Anyway, let's go into me and Ben were actually quite complimentary about Forest in ways, but we did mention that Europe could be a bit of an issue.
I don't know why.
They've been all right in Europe. I mean, weird like that.
Shows the Premier
Fenerbahce
League.
team was like stacked.
Shows the Premier League
away from home.
prowess. All right, 15th down to 20th. Then things get interesting here. Henry Hill, 15th, Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Jesus.
16th, Nottingham Forest. 17th, Sunderland. Then the relegation zone, Brentford, Burnley, Leeds.
Wait, where did you have West Ham?
1 out of 5 there.
West Ham, you had West Ham 14th.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah, West Ham 14th.
Jesus.
All with West Ham. Ben, you had Fulham 14th. West Ham 15th.
Yeah.
Brentford 16th. You had them stay up.
Up the
17th, Sunderland. 18th, Wolves relegated. 19th, Burnley relegated. Leeds 20th.
Bottom, Jesus.
Relegated.
You might be.
I had
I just
15th, West Ham. 16th, Wolves. 17th, Sunderland. 18th, Brentford. 19th, Leeds. 20th, Burnley. Let's start with Sunderland. None of us had I think we'd all been scarred over the last few years of teams coming up, not looking the part, and even teams making as many transfers as Sunderland had and trying and being scarred and them going straight back down, not working out. I remember us mentioning in the video, talking about, Ipswich had done it and tried to make almost like a super championship team and see if that could do it, and it hadn't worked. And you brought up Henry, and obviously we'll get on to the likes of Granit Xhaka, but actually they brought in some big experience. Sunderland, for instance, had made lots of fantastic signings. Super complimentary about all of their transfer business, that they weren't just going for guys from the Championship who were really good or lower league Premier League clubs. They were going for guys that were playing in Europe at times and doing a very good job at that. And then we all believed that Sunderland would stay up. As much as we believed that, I don't think any of us believed how good of start of the season they would end up having.
No,
absolutely not.
We mentioned the possibility of AFCON, but I think we're all very, very complimentary of Sunderland, and it's good to see that they've kind of gone on and done even better than that. And as you mentioned, Henry, your Granit Xhaka shout out was very, very complimentary. And do you want to give him any love?
Well, I think it's very telling that when he doesn't play, they really, really suffer.
Yeah.
He is I'm devastated. I often think Fulham have just signed Xhaka. Not that I have any issue with my midfield, but he is a proper leader. Actually, a lot of Sunderland fans say Siddiqui has been as much of an impact.
But he's the right back, Mukiele.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's sometimes you just don't know. I mean, Mukiele again though, PSG.
Yeah.
It hasn't always worked. Don't get me wrong, signing players like that, but the recruitment at that club deserves huge praise. Like Alderete, getting him in. A lot of the defensive signings they've made.
The only one that probably didn't work was the Brighton guy,
Adingra,
and he's gone to Monaco.
I agree, but I mean, look, if you offered Sunderland and said, look, all these signings you're going to make, this is one that's not going to work, I'd be like, fine, whatever. Yeah. It's been. I think they need to go after another striker in the summer. I think Isidore and Brobby, they're sort of much the same of nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need to go get another striker. But what a remarkable season. And they did so well at the start of the campaign. Do you remember when Blackpool had a really good start and then they sort of faded away? They've given themselves that buffer, and then
they're basically safe by January.
Yeah. And then they've gone away and got a 1-0 win at Ellen Road to more or less cement their status.
They were brilliant. Last night they defended, obviously I hate watching that game to try and drag Leeds back into it, even though I do like Leeds and I have an issue with them whatsoever. But Sunderland backs to the wall after getting that penalty. They were fantastic. And I think as well, to a part of that, I said about the recruitment, I think that I was a massive fan of it in two ways, in the sense they brought in experience and some decent players, but also if they do go down, that with the younger players that they did bring in, I think I said that they will improve enough. They will prove themselves enough where they will be able to make their money back and then be able to go again in the Championship and then come back up.
Yeah.
But also it's massive credit to Reggie Labrie, because if you look at their team, look at the players that were playing in the Championship for them, like Dan Ballard, etc., and the way that they have stepped up and defended. especially at the
Even like
especially
Luke
the players
O'Neill,
that-
like
Luke O'Neill,
Luke
yeah.
O'Neill, he's been
Ballard's been
really good.
absolutely brilliant,
Needed.
and like even like the guys like, did they sign out? Forgive me, I've done it. Did they sign Alderete? Or was Alderete?
Yeah, they signed him.
Alderete, but like Alderete's been
The
brilliant
striker,
as well.
who's the other striker that they had in the Championship?
Mayenda was in the Championship. Isidore was in the
Isidore was in the
Championship.
Championship,
Those
yeah.
guys have got
Done really
key
well.
goals as well.
Yeah.
Well, certainly Isidore has, like not loads of goals, but key goals. But the likes of Ballard, etc., who are with them, have been absolutely brilliant. Robin Riffs has been a brilliant signing as well. Like,
fantastic.
so it's massive credit to the recruitment, massive credit to the manager, massive credit for those players that have taken the step up as well. So they've been absolutely brilliant.
It will be
some of them.
really interesting. Say Coventry or Borough. I mean, I don't know who's going to come up from the Championship. Really,
I mean, it will be
but
Cov will come up.
It'll be very interesting to
decent
see what
buffer to third
Coventry do, because
Yeah.
looking at their squad, how many of those guys are Premier League ready? Again, who knows who's going to make the jump? Like Middlesbrough, almost feel more set for that leap, perhaps. But I mean, I'm not going to waffle on.
No,
about it,
but it's a fair point. It will be them. Though those two will be there.
And
I
which
think.
strategy they take?
Yeah,
which
exactly.
strategy?
yeah,
Do you
that's the
just,
bigger
do you
question.
just
That's the most
pump 150 million but go after like genuine quality, or do you do the Ipswich approach? Because the Ipswich approach is beginning to pay off. Like, they're rising out very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's chat a little bit West Ham. We said we were worried about West Ham. We thought their transfers were iffy. Still, though, we thought they'd have enough quality with the likes of Bowen in the side. We really worried about Fulkrig up top. So I don't think they were too far off it. Like, look, it's still going to be close towards the end of the season. They made a call to bring in Nuno at the time. We did speak a little bit about Potter and said like maybe he'd be able to do something this season, but we're not 100% sure. So yeah, I don't think we're too far off. They are obviously in a bit of a relegation scrap at the moment. Think they might be able to get out of it, but we'll see come the end of the season. But we had the West Ham. But we had them.
It's going to be touch and go.
No, I agree. Yeah, but we had
They've
them
got
within and
momentum
around
there.
there.
They're playing quite well.
Henry, you had them 14th. Me and Ben had them 15th.
Yeah, I think Graham Potter failing there is the thing I'm probably most sad about, because I do want someone like Potter to do well. I mean, he's got the Sweden job, so he's all right.
Yeah, he'll be right.
Wolves, for example, I think are massively overlooked the reality of losing your main goal scoring threat and then your like other best, most experienced player in defence. Like I realise that's so silly.
Wolves. So we all don't mind Wolves in this season. They think they do all right. I said that I spoke to a few Wolves fans, and they were actually quite worried about this season. So who knew? Wolves, the fans know more than we do. We said we really like Strad Larson off the season before. He's going to have a fantastic year. Just didn't happen. He came in injured, barely played.
There's something there though. He's
moved.
done okay at Palace. Like,
Yeah,
there's something there.
I don't think it was like mental to believe that he could be very good again this
Definitely
season. We said obviously they're losing Cunha. We were worried how that's going to feel, but at times last season when they played without Cunha, they actually looked okay and looked all right. So using the experience that we'd seen the previous season, but Ben, you did call for them to go down. So hey, fair
Thanks,
play.
mate.
You got.
They might yet do the Great Escape.
Well, you never know. Yeah.
I mean, Opta said it was a 100% chance they go down before the game yesterday. And
100.
Yeah, maybe that's crept up to 99.
99.9.
I think they're like 11 points off safety, but I think Forest have got like 2 games in hand over them. So it's just like, it's not going to, well, who knows?
A little bit too little, too late, possibly.
Yeah, but a massive credit to them for now in terms of the way that they're playing without that kind of the freedom of knowing that they're down and the way they're taking on teams. There's still good quality in that team. Like Andre and Gomez, I think, have been brilliant the last few weeks. Well, I mean, which Gomez? Take your pick. But João Gomez especially. Rodrigo Gomez has stepped up a little bit recently. My thing with Wolves at the start of the season was that I gave Vitor Pereira so much praise last year towards the back end of the season when Cunha got that really silly ban against Bournemouth in the FA Cup and they had 4 or 5 games, I think, without him. And they went unbeaten. I think they won 3 out of 4. I remember they had a massive win against Ipswich. I think Sarabia really stepped up that day. And I just thought that despite how much praise I'd given him, and despite the fact they proved they could be a really decent side to get themselves out of trouble without Cunha, because I remember when Cunha got that red card, they were 5 or 6, I still think they were like 5 points clear of the relegation battle, but they had 2 huge 6-pointers coming up against Ipswich. And there was another team, I can't remember, that would have been below them. And it was like, there was obviously going to be a big doubt over whether he could do that, but the way he galvanised the fan base was brilliant, and they got the team playing in spite of losing their talisman who had carried them prior to that point. But I just was worried about whether he'd be able to do that again, and that's exactly what's happened. But yeah,
maybe a little bit too late.
I didn't have them. I certainly didn't think they'd be one of the worst teams in Premier League history. But again, if they win 3 games between now and the end of the season, they're so clear of even that. Like people talking about them breaking Derby's record, they've already gone past that.
I do think though, if they go down, we might not see them back in the Premier League for a long time.
Wolves, you feel like every summer there's always some sort of financial trouble.
Financial trouble. Half the team, like the whole Brazilian midfield is gone.
Yeah,
absolutely gone. They'll be plucked up. Like, it wouldn't shock me if like Andre gets picked up by a half decent side.
Andre and
well.
João Gomez will be at like mid-table clubs aspiring for Europe at the very least.
It wouldn't even shock me if like Man United picked up Andre and had him as like rotation.
We were in for Andre. We originally had agreed to deal with him, and then we backed out of it. And then
he's brilliant.
Yeah, so it wouldn't shock me, but I do think once they go down,
full respect in relatively. Sorry,
it might take a while.
He's been brilliant the last few games.
Yes, all right. He's had some poor moments. I mean, they've been Brazilian internationals. Like
João Gomez, I think is such a good player.
Let's get to it. Bless you, Ali. That's my girlfriend's just in the background having a sneeze.
Zach's hag.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
That's bang out.
Definitely not. Henry, Jesus Christ, apologise. Okay. Let's move to Brentford. I can't believe you said that. Ben compliments
the bees.
Brentford's defence.
Yeah.
I mentioned how I want to believe in Keith Andrews, but I just don't know yet. We said he might be able to galvanise them. We also brought up how me and Henry said this. We were really worried about how Brentford were going to replace Thomas Frank. We just didn't know how it's going to work out. Someone that was so crucial to that side and to that club for the last God knows how long. Very valid. We thought Thiago wasn't amazing, but we also said that partially is due to injury as well. Like, we hadn't seen him in the league, and I would maybe even kind of agree, Ben, that he hasn't. I
think he's good. He's obviously good, but like
it was mentioned, and I can't remember who said this. Maybe it was me. It feels easier to back Wolves than it was to back Brentford at the time. And I kind of still see that. Yeah. I still see it. So much as, like, we just didn't know what this Brentford side... What I think it evidently has shown is we believed that Brentford at the time had a lot to do with Thomas Frank. And it did. It did have a lot to do with Thomas Frank. But I think maybe we didn't give enough credit to the setup, to the board, to the sporting directors there, how they... And they said before, they had a plan a few years ago when Frank was being rumored of leaving about what they were going to do if he was to leave the club. Yeah. And evidently that plan has worked out fantastically, and they do know what they're doing. They've done such a brilliant job at that. Anybody... I had in the John Terry video recently, or not the John Terry video, the Barcelona fan video, we had the Brentford fan, I think Craig, come up and mention how, everybody thought they were going to get relegated. Basically, everybody thought they were going to get relegated, and nobody even thought nobody in the world thought they were going to get top half of the table. Even Brentford fans weren't believing that. But Keith Andrews has done such an amazing job. He's really got that team to play to its strengths. I mean, the set piece coach has got the team playing really well with set pieces and throw-ins. So full credit to them, like absolutely proven everybody wrong. I know, I think we might see some sort of Twitter video that might feature a few faces predicting them to get relegated at the end of the season.
I think the thing about
John will be in a bit of trouble there.
The thing about Brentford as well, and if you look at the criticisms ahead of Brighton, like, who are they really? And then same again with Wolves, just only buying players with zero Premier League experience. This Brentford side is actually quite battle hardened when it comes to the regulars in that team. Henderson, great signing. Yeah, just for leadership.
We were worried about Henderson.
Well, I think I praised him. I really like the Henderson signing in the summer.
But even Damsgaard, Jensen, these are guys that have been around a very long time at this point. And then going to the defence, Nathan Collins, there's two no-nonsense centre-halves. Pinnock's been around a long time, Rico Henry. And then they go and sign Kevin Kelleher, who is a fantastic keeper. Like, undeniably
we gave them credit for that as well. We did give them credit for that.
The point is, what I think we overlooked is how mentally equipped this team are to kind of keep going in a way that there's a strong, honest identity to this team. And that's not to discredit, to diminish any of these players. Lewis Potter stepping up. Even like Sharda has been finding his feet more and more throughout the campaign. And then Thiago as well, coming back with something really to prove. And it really does help having a goal-scoring centre-forward.
Yeah. Massively.
It shows how you don't need to set the world alight with your tactics if you can figure out a way to get your striker who's scoring goals and enjoying it from on goal. But yeah, I think we just overlooked the unity in this team. Jan out as well, someone who's been around, knows the business.
He's been very good this season.
And Yarmulke as well, other players that have stepped up.
Yeah.
No, I think you're spot on there. And look, it's nice, I think, to be actually able to sit here and say we were completely wrong about that.
Yeah, that's fine.
And they've done such a good job at coming back and being able to prove very wrong, really. So, if anyone on the Brentford social media team is looking to clip anything up, we are sorry.
Not me, guys. I had you staying up, guys, Brentford.
Yeah, you had them 17th.
Keith Andrews.
16th, I think, didn't I?
You had them in 16th. Apologies.
Keith
Ben.
Andrews has secured himself a good future now, because whatever happens, he'll get the Ireland job at some point. So,
Yeah, good point.
Fair dues. And then, look, we didn't actually go into loads about Burnley and Leeds just because we thought they were going to go down. We did mention how we thought it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if any of the new clubs coming up did stay up by the skin of their teeth. I mean, I think Leeds have done such an impressive job to, and again, they're not out of it,
I was going
to
to say, like,
but they are.
I think people don't get me wrong. I really like Leeds, and this isn't a dig or anything like that. And it's not me. It's not copium saying another team could be dragged into it. But like, if Spurs win tomorrow, they go above Leeds.
Yeah.
And it's like Leeds. I think Leeds had some brilliant performances, and I don't think anybody saw Daniel Farke being able to do this because
to keep his job the whole season.
Well, when we were doing the video, there was doubts about whether Farke would even still be the manager. There was a lot of talk in pre-season. To go back even further, I remember when they won the league, got promoted, even in the weeks that followed that, there was a lot of chat about whether they're just going to bite the bullet, upgrade him and get a manager that's actually been able to do it in the Premier League. So I think everyone was right to assume that Leeds would still, at the very least, be in this battle in a big way. And they still are. They're not safe. But the way that he has got them playing in big games, got big results, even Man City. I thought Man City deserved to win that game last week, and I thought they controlled the game well. But for half an hour, Leeds were absolutely all over them. Obviously, credit to Arsenal, went and battered them, but they beat Chelsea, beat Liverpool in those two games that his job was on the line.
They didn't lose to Chelsea. Yeah,
Well, exactly,
Chelsea's the game where Chelsea's the game where he changes formation and gets them playing.
And in that week, there were reports that if he loses to Chelsea and Liverpool, he will be sacked.
Yeah.
And so massive credit to Leeds. Like I said, they're not out of the woods, but they deserve a hell of a lot of credit.
Our line about Leeds was actually, there's a chance Leeds could do something. We mentioned how predicting them to go down may look quite stupid at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, full credit to them.
Almost full circle back to what we were talking about at the very start of the video. They recruited big lads.
Yeah.
They just were like, we're going to muscle our way through this.
Adapting to the league a bit.
And Calvert-Lewin, I actually
Calvert-Lewin
didn't
was a
mind
shock.
that.
I think Calvert-Lewin was a shock to how
Massively.
well he.
I'm not surprised. Oh,
No, but
he was a technically
but
good
as long as he
footballer.
stay fit.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
You know
been
he's going to
so
score.
injured.
If he can stay fit,
100%.
you know he's going to put the ball in the back of the net.
If Farke survives an entire Premier League season, that's one of the biggest surprises of the year.
Well,
Fair
yeah.
enough.
we'll
And
get
fair
into
play to him.
Get into that in just a second. Our last one.
Daniel Farke.
We hated Burnley's signings, Henry in particular. We
Did I?
mentioned, yeah.
I think we said quite a lot about Broya.
don't remember
didn't we?
any-
We mentioned a lot about Armando Broya, yeah. £20 million on Broya.
Oh, yeah, that was a complete waste of money.
What a joke.
And that one maybe is one of the least shocking ones. And again, we mentioned that it's not that we don't like Broya, but he is the most unfit player in the world. And Burnley, at times, there have been moments actually this season they've looked like, they might be able to do something here. At the start of the season, they looked all right. I actually think back to that Man United game near the start of the season where they were unlucky
Silly
not
penalty.
to get something.
They were
from
costing
it.
themselves actually quite a bit at the
They
start of
have.
the season, weren't they? With
They
silly
have.
penalties and silly. Right at Liverpool, they had it where they lost Liverpool in the last minute
Mm-hmm.
exactly the same way they did against Man United, as you said, with silly penalties. Even up until like last week, being 3-0 down in 30 minutes to Brentford and then nearly winning the game. And then getting shafted by referees.
And there's been a lot as the season's gone on. Things have really digressed. Digressed, is that the right word? Yeah. Whatever the word is, declined. And there's also been stuff as well outside of on the pitch. Fans basically hating Parker. The board coming out against the fans. Players ended up going against fans. Yeah, it's been quite rough.
I don't like, even though they've got such a low points total, I don't even think they've been that bad.
I don't think they've been that bad.
No,
not at all.
I don't look at them and go, what a
They're still
terrible
a bit
team
of like
they
a
were.
bogey. Like they can be quite a banana skin. And then we'll wrap through the last few things. First to be sacked, Ben. You said Nuno.
That was right?
Yeah, you done pretty well there, mate. Done pretty well. I mentioned how Amarim might not be the first to go, but could be the third to go. Not too far from that either. We also said Farke. So
Daniel
fair
Farke.
play to Daniel Farke.
He's funny, man. He's a cool guy.
And and I love that.
We drink beer.
Do you see that press conference recently? He was like, I've never run that fast in my life.
Yeah, he was like, people
That's
think
an
I'm,
awful
people
accent
think
there.
I am cute.
Yeah, I think people think I'm cute.
He said such a funny glow up, like the video of him just touching the ball out the sky and just sort of there's all these remixes of like, I'm Daniel Farke.
I'd
They're
love
so
to know.
good.
Daniel
I'd love to
Farke.
know if you're a Leeds fan. This might be on this camera. Do you like Daniel Farke? Like, I can never quite understand whether Leeds fans think he's a great manager or love him at Leeds,
I think they do
or whether
now.
they are a bit open to kind of like if he was a bit sacked, they wouldn't be that bothered. I can never quite tell. So if you're a Leeds fan, please let me know down below. Best signings:
Oh no,
João Pedro,
not bad.
Grealish, Barry, or Kieran Dewsbury Hall from Henry. Not terrible.
I said, not Xhaka.
Sorry, you mentioned Xhaka as well. You had mentioned Xhaka, but I brought him up earlier. So Xhaka as well. Ben.
Florian Wirtz.
Florian Wirtz and Tiani Reinders.
Fuck.
Explain yourself. Explain yourself.
Well, to be fair, my take aged really well about Reinders prior to the first game of the season when he scored a hat-trick against Wolves.
People call it the best debut of all time.
Well, there you go. And he's popped up with a few moments.
It was like
but
a Brayton assist or something.
the fact that he's not in the City, he's just not.
I forget he's a City player.
Well, also, like we said it, I think last week or whenever we did the pod about the week before when we did the pod about like the sort of more general what's going on in the Prem. We were talking about the fact that Pep's found his team now for the run-in, and it doesn't include Reinders. And yeah, I thought Reinders would be really good. I think Wirtz has been good in moments,
but not
justified the price tag yet. I thought he'd hit the ground running more than he did, but I still think there's a special player.
I think next season he might be interesting considering
I think he's a top player.
Florian Wirtz.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
But I think people might mention the price tag a little bit less next season.
Probably.
And then that will kind of help him a little bit as well. But and Liverpool might find their feet a bit more next season. That will also benefit them. So yeah, Wirtz, not yet.
Sorry, Liverpool fans, the Ben Bowman kiss of death strikes again.
I got a lot of shit for calling out Wirtz as well in that. But maybe I was slightly right. Okay, worst signings: Henry Broja, Ben Alanga, me, James Trafford. After the signing of Donnarumma.
I'd say
I don't think Donnarumma was even signed at that point.
No, they had just signed Donnarumma, and that had caused me to mention.
Okay. Yeah, he had a poor start. Trafford,
I think we're pretty much on the pulse there. Although I don't think James Trafford's a bad signing.
The point I made was the fact that it's
for him
and because of them signing Donnarumma, he's not going to be a starter.
Fair play.
And he probably won't be at that club next season. And then our final one,
Tottenham, please.
Breakout star.
Ooh, fun.
I mentioned Oscar Bob, but questions if he'll play enough at City for that to happen. That's kind of what happened in the end, unfortunately.
Looked good against Spurs.
Mate,
I think against Fulham, he will. For Fulham, I think we might really start to see him come.
Me
and shine.
watching Conor Gallagher, who we signed for exactly the same amount of money as you signed Oscar Bob, was enough to just
I said Esteval, which I think is not a million miles away, but also not maybe like
Had his moments.
not maybe the genius move either. Like everyone was talking about Esteval. Ben,
What did I say?
you also said Esteval.
I'd said it's a Spurs player. No.
Did I say Bob?
Did I say Bergvall?
No, I said possibly Bob.
Did I say Bergvall?
You didn't say Bergvall.
Did I say Archie Gray?
You didn't say Archie Gray.
Who did I say? Was it Spurs player?
Papa Sarr.
Oh, yeah.
Papa Sarr for Spurs. He said he could be integral to how Thomas
He was
Frank
brilliant at
wants
the
to
start
play.
of the season, to be fair. And
Yeah.
mate, the fact that we don't play...
I still like Sarr.
The fact that we play Gallagher over him is genuinely a criminal offence. Like, Sarr is a very decent player.
Yeah.
I just thought he'd go up another level. And to be fair, like I said, at the start of the season, he was cooking for Frank. Like, he was brilliant, but yeah.
It is.
Still on my phone case.
Henry.
There he is.
Harry Amas.
Oh.
He's been on loan at Sheffield Wednesday, I'm pretty sure.
What did he win like player of the month for them as well? Your other one was Josh King.
Again, not bad.
Yeah, he's had moments. And still is a very exciting player. We also collectively mention Rio Ngamoa at Liverpool,
mate,
which again,
player.
like, he is so electric.
The fact that Gakpo and Salah start over that kid is fucking criminal.
He made the save Sarr makes against him yesterday
Yeah.
is a joke. It's so good.
I got a bit of heat on Twitter from some people because I tweeted during when I think it was just after that, or like he clipped another ball into Van Dijk. I was like, everything is going through him.
Mate, he's
and then
so
someone was
good.
like, he's not done anything. I was like, are you watching the same game? I was like,
Twitter, innit? Ignore them. Yeah, he's so good. And we also see Max Doman, but he's been a bit injured this season, and like he'd already broken out.
I think he would have been if he.
Yeah.
He's quality.
There we have it, lads. There we have it. Well done, boys. Not too. I've had worse years. I'd agree.
I think that's not a bad hit.
We were
rate.
a few decent ones.
Yeah.
We had a few
I think
stinkers.
Spurs was the killer, and maybe Brentford for myself.
Yeah, at least Tottenham. At least it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
That makes me feel a bit better.
Yeah. Well then, lads, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, boys. Henry Hill, for people at home want to check you out. Where can they go?
Just follow me on Instagram, please, because that appears to be the things that brands look for. So do that.
There you go. Follow Henry on Instagram. Ben Bowman, the club of people at home, check him out.
Follow me on Instagram. Because apparently that's what the brands are looking at. YouTube as well too. I've got Ben Bowman THFC, nearly at 20k subs. If you're a Spurs fan, go and watch that. And then I've got a new Ben Bowman general football channel, which is doing a lot of general football content on there. So go and watch that.
They'll be collaborated, so make sure you do that. Oh yeah, also follow me on Instagram, apparently, so the brands are. No, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to Nothing But Football if you haven't already. Subscribe to my main channel if you haven't already. Check us out on all those platforms. Things going really well. Thank you so much, as always, for supporting us. Hopefully, we'll be doing some more stuff with Nothing But Football as well next season. So stay tuned.
Hello.
So yeah, lads, thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.